It's once again time for that broken record to start spinning and Old Man Slug get on his soapbox about an upcoming wrestling video game. What's good, internet? My name is Attack Slug, and welcome to my WWE 2K22 predictions and expectations video I do every year of the past like 5 or 6 years. But before I get started, this video is sponsored by nobody, because this channel does not do sponsored content. So take your stupid earbuds and your terrible mobile games and get out of my email inbox and spend 5 seconds, just 5 seconds, looking at the banner art of my channel that says no sponsored content. If you want to support, hit that Patreon. Anyway, welcome to the show. WWE 2K22 is releasing this year after a year break after the garbage fire that was 2K20, and the tagline for this year is "It hits different." They better hope and pray that it does not glitch the same. But we are in uncharted territory for the 2K franchise. Ukes is gone. They're done. Finito. This is a 100% visual concepts game, and they have had a 2-year dev cycle, sort of. If you haven't noticed, there's been a global pandemic forcing a lot of companies to work from home, so it's not exactly that full 2 years in an office that would have hopefully given us amazing results. And usually I do these videos pretty much right after WrestleMania, as that is the usual cutoff date for content before the game gets finalized and shipped in the fall. So any like arenas and outfits and characters and superstars, that all gets finalized Mania weekend, heading towards a fall release. This year we saw gameplay at WrestleMania, which was wild. And they've said out there on social media and on Reddit, hey, we're going to be more transparent, we're going to show things earlier, we're going to keep you more in the loop in our marketing cycle, and that is a good thing if they actually follow through with that. And so far we've seen it earlier than we ever had, which is a good thing. But now we're back on that, hey, here's a 1 minute behind the scenes YouTube thing, and it's like, that's what you used to do before the whole thing with 2K20. That's what you used to do with, hey, we're gonna give you a little tiny taste, and then, oh, maybe an entrance or two, but no actual gameplay up until right before the game is out. So are they going to have out YouTubers for SummerSlam this year? Not me, but will they have other YouTubers out there for SummerSlam this year to play the game? And what state is the game currently in? Here's what we kind of can assume. This is still going to be the Ukes engine, right? Even if Ukes isn't making the game, the engine is still going to be the Ukes engine, because 2 years, especially in a pandemic, 2 years is not enough time to make a brand new video game engine to meet what people expect from this game to have, all the different modes and match types and rosters. So fixing up what you currently have over that 2-year period does make sense from a business perspective. And my understanding is that Ukes, while obviously not working on this game anymore, will offer engine support, even though they are making their own new thing with AEW and working on those Earth Defense Force games. So don't get your hopes too high up for something brandy new, because that's just not technically feasible in the time frame and the budget these games usually get. But the biggest hurdle this year is obviously, how do you convince the fans to buy your game? After the absolute trash fire, the dumpster diving trash fire that was 2K20, how do you win back people besides me who's going to buy it anyway? That's what I do here on the channel. But how do you win back the average fan who got burned by that game, was like, you know what, I'm done? To me, the most obvious answer, given your extended dev cycle and everything else, would be to put out a playable demo. If you had a playable demo this year, like a one-on-one match in one arena with 2 superstars, perhaps, 3 or 4 to get crazy with it, but if you just had a singular one-match demo with 2 superstars, and that proved that there were not a myriad of bugs and animation glitches, and it was fun to play, that would buy back a lot of goodwill from the community out here, who are very, very angry considering what they did last time. I'm not saying that solves all your problems, but it does go a long way. But there is one thing that should be the entirety of your focus this year. Never mind new modes, never mind new superstars, never mind all of the glitz and glamour and accoutrement. The one thing that should be the focus of this team for the last 2 years is the core gameplay. If that core gameplay is not fixed and fun, then what is everything else they've done for? And I know that most game companies don't like admitting fault and saying, hey, we put out a broken thing, we're sorry, and whatever. Like, enough time has passed that if you put out a fun game, even if the bare minimum that you do is mimicking 2K19, that is a step in the right direction after the dumpster fire that was 2K20. And I know that, hey, we fixed it is not really a back-of-the-box quote or whatever, but please, that's the main thing you need to do, because building on a cracked foundation does nobody any favors, especially moving into a new console generation. But wrestling, we know, moves very fast, and it's been 2 years. 2 years of wrestling is like an eternity of changes and new things, new faces, new shows, LED boards everywhere. So you wonder, what should be new in this year's game, considering they didn't put out a game last year besides Battlegrounds, but that was a different thing. Should we have any kind of attempt at a cinematic match, even though those are now kind of going away because we're getting back to having crowds real soon? I think the bare minimum, you need to have the Thunderdome in the game. And we caught glimpses of that arena in that little trailer there with Mysterio and Cesaro. But you also need to have the option to not have fans or have the LEDs and or both. And yes, for years on PC, you could turn down the fan density or turn them off, and perhaps it is a mandate from WWE that you have to have fans in the crowd. But if you want to pitch the most authentic and realistic, you didn't have fans for a long time. And I would certainly hope you have both WrestleMania pirate arenas. The one that had no fans, and please, let us jump off that Mania sign like Kevin Owens did, but also the one with the limited attendance from Mania this year. But besides that, do I think that this engine can handle War Games? I would love to see War Games. I'm not going to count on War Games being in there because we know how just ramshackle and barely held together that Yuke's engine is. Adding another ring with a cage and that many guys I think would just kind of break the whole thing. But again, they've had more time, so maybe they solved that problem. Now, moving on to modes, right? With a new dev in charge, what modes do you include? I know that Visual Concepts did push for those things like Showcase mode. They were heavy on that, but Showcase mode gets trickier and trickier these days. Because if you're looking back historically at what you can feature in a showcase, and which superstars that you would have in that showcase, and who they interacted with, and how many of those superstars are now in, say, AEW, it becomes difficult. So when you have to now map out like a certain superstar's showcase and their big moments in their career, it's like, well, did they have stuff with The Big Show, or Christian, or Dean Ambrose, or Rusev, or Arn Anderson, Take the Snake? Like, there are names you can't now include because they are on a competitor's product. So Showcase could be kind of tricky on that. When it comes to my career, I certainly enjoy doing my career. Is it going to be a focused, like, 10 to 15 hour thing, or a long, grindy, like, 100-hour thing? More importantly, do you finally have a separate men's and women's my career? They got close last time where it was like a split deal, and that's fine. But I say it every year, just copy Here Comes the Pain and do that with a bigger budget, or at this point, having just replayed 2K15, copy that, make it better, bigger budget. It had the grinding and the story and kind of intermingled there, and yeah, with a proper budget behind it, that could be a fantastic thing. Do they revamp Universe to include some kind of an GM option? Do we have a whole separate GM mode? The fans have been clamoring. They keep saying that they're listening, and the fans want that pretty heavily, so I would hope that somebody there has made those things happen, but I'm not going to get my hopes up. But for the love of God, can you give us a special guest referee mode back, please? Now, I'd certainly hope the online has more options. Like, they gave us back lobbies, but I want to see more options in those lobbies for me to play with the fans here, I want to use the custom arenas. I want to use custom match types and make it all inclusive there. If it's something I can do in single player, let me do it on the internet. Other games have solved this, like why can't you? And yes, that does get tricky with who owns what DLC, I understand, but other games have done a thing where, alright, well, I'm joining a game, I don't have what he has, so it'll download the textures that I need to do that for just that game, and then it gets rid of them. So it's not that hard. So when it comes to your cover star, I think your main two options here are either McIntyre or Roman Reigns. And I understand that Roman was on that half cover with Becky for 2K20, but this is a different big dog. This is the tribal chief. Acknowledge him. But yes, McIntyre certainly carried things during the initial pandemic and lockdown stuff, so he deserves it at this point. So, special edition. I think that the giant jack-in-the-box that the Fiend had at Mania would be a great box to put that in for your Fiend special edition, so I don't see why not. Fiend merchandise sells like hotcakes, so that makes all the sense in the world to me. And as far as your pre-order bonus, you totally used Edge for Battlegrounds, so at this point, who else besides the CM Punk could be a big name to, alright, I have to pre-order? Maybe it'll be Bad Bunny, I don't know. When it comes to DLC, please do not do any more 2K originals. But I will say, the thing I do not expect to see at all, because we don't actually know if it's factual yet or not, is that when WWE returns to live events in July, I've heard they're building new sets for Raw and SmackDown, and that is way too late to actually make it into the game this year, and that kind of sucks. But that always seems to happen, right? The game's out in the fall, and like they put out new sets in like August, and it's like, wait, no, come on, that's already outdated, but that's kind of the name of the game here with wrestling. But that leads me to the final point here, which is platforms. I would imagine that PS4 and Xbox One and PC are locked in, but will we see the Xbox Series X and S and the PS5 in your platforms for this year? Because typically, wrestling games will, at a new console launch, skip that first holiday. For example, 2K14 came out the same year as the PS4 and the Xbox One and was not on those platforms. That wasn't until 2K15 that those got those next-gen ports. And that original rumor from last year had said they would also skip next-gen for these games. I would hope they would not. That's money on the table. Just say, hey, basically the PS5 and Xbox Series versions should essentially be what those PC versions are, right? And definitely there are things you could do to differentiate those next-gen versions, like the hair physics. Fix the long hair physics and make it next-gen. That's fine. But looking back, like they put out 15, 16, and 17 on the PS3 and the Xbox 360, so don't think those consoles are going away anytime soon. Which brings me to the Nintendo Switch, which obviously famously got that terrible 2K18 port and then got Battlegrounds. And I'm going to say that what they should do, if they aren't already thinking about it, is that games like Control and Hitman 3 have cloud versions, where it's over the internet streaming to get that proper console, same as the PS4 and 5 and whatever ports, and do it through the cloud and streaming and do it that way. If you aren't going to make a proper port that runs well, then do a cloud version that makes sense. Anyway, this is a wild year, completely uncharted territory for a whole lot of reasons, and I'm going to be here with whatever it happens to be, buying it and playing it and giving my unfiltered and honest and 100% real opinion as a fan of games and as a fan of wrestling. I'm Attack Slug. Thanks for watching. More videos right here. I'll see you next time, and I'm out.